properly in like a week. So
I looked at them a little bit last night and on Friday. This meeting is being live streamed on the YouTubes.
from the future.
Hey, we're back. We're back. It's been a minute. I don't know what the hell happened to us or where time went. I'm in a different state. GP's in a different country, continent, world,
Hemisphere.
And Nick is too. He stays a space cadet. So I'm just teasing Nick. I'm just, it's all love. So guys, what's happened over the last 3 weeks that maybe we should talk about? Anything important? Nothing.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So I will start.
Where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with the Qs, because Qs are our lifeblood. Let's be honest, right? We can talk about the SPY, but the Qs are our lifeblood. It's what
drives us down to that shit.
Right. So for the last 8, 9, 10 weeks now, is it? Since early May, the sentiment in all of FinTwit and everything has noticeably gotten more bearish, right? People are like,
terrible.
Nope, everything's gonna fail.
Miserable people.
Miserable, right? Like you think they'd wake up with like a happy day or something like that. But it's what it is. But it's noticeably gotten more bearish every time we fail, every time we try to push forward. The I don't know, sentiment, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's just like, yeah, we're gonna fail, we're never getting out of this is the end of the world type kind of conversations. Like, oh, you might get a rally here and there, but we're ultimately going to fail terribly, and we're going to go exactly to my level, and then that's the level I'm going to buy it at, because you guys are all suckers.
Stupid.
You're just fighting the trend and all that stuff. But in those 9 or 10 weeks, what have we done? We're literally sideways.
Nothing. Zero.
Yeah.
Jack might have done more actually, but we really haven't done anything. So like, I'm leaning bullish, but I'm not one way or the other here, right? It looks like it's trying to form a base with this much technical damage. It's not going to be the V shape everyone's looking for, right? There's a lot of macro headwinds on top of all this stuff. So what we're going to be looking for is potential continuation, right? Like, and it could fail at any point in time. I'm not arguing that, but
we're roughly trading in a 7.5% range right now.
Yeah, and for what? Since early May, right? Like since the May CPI, and we keep selling off on the same news, yet we're not going lower. I don't know if like how many people have been trading how long, but that's usually like for us to break that next leg lower, there's got to be something that comes out that's out of the left field, right? It's got to be something that we're not expecting. Let's say, for example, China invades Taiwan, right? Then I could see the bigger leg down and all that other stuff. But right now we're sideways, and to say the trend is definitely down, and no one's arguing that, but you're seeing signs of life.
You are.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like in the midst of this kind of decline, we've really seen the volume pick up on the down waves, and where we've been in this last bit of range, last month or so, it's like it's nowhere to be found. Like they'll push price into lows and then it like disappears, and then we bounce and we push into highs and the volume disappears. So it's like, I'm with you. Like I'm definitely, all I can say is short term, I'm leaning bullish too, or at least I'm anticipating some form of like, Qs, let's just say 310, 315-ish is kind of like, if I had to put a target on it, I think that's where at least we're going to gravitate towards, and then kind of see where we, where the cards fall once we bounce.
Nick, ultimately for me, what you're what we're seeing is it's I've talked about this for ages now, but you're starting to see it even more. It's all flow now. It's not a conversation of people selling and liquidating and all that other stuff. It's literally flow, because there's just no liquidity. That volume dry up you're talking about is volume dries up at resistance. They turn around and sell calls, and price reverses, and then price hits support, and they turn around and buy, sell puts, right? So you've just been seeing a trading range for a couple of months now, and it kind of makes sense. When did we start QT? June 1st officially, but technically June 15th. So we've been sideways since QT started, right? That was one of the big concerns of QT, which is it's going to reduce liquidity in the markets, and it has, and you can see it. And then you have the summer doldrums that go along with all of this stuff, but I don't really buy into all that stuff because everyone's been working from home for like 3 years. Everyone's home anyway. So yeah, there's definitely, to me, lots of signs. Look, man, my number one indicator for all markets is Apple, right? It has, for the since the 2008 crisis, Apple has been our leader, up or down, right? And for it to be the last one to fall this time is showing you that to me, that's showing that the market is bottoming, right? Not starting another leg down. Apple came down as the last one to fall because everyone goes there for safety, and then when that safety dissipates, it's the last one to come down, right? So you've had that, and now Apple's starting to see relative strength versus the regular markets, right? It held that, what was that post split high of 138?
Yeah.
Multiple weeks now, and it's starting to push away from that. So if you're using a barometer check, that to me is one of your best barometer checks. And then you had the TSM, the Taiwan Semiconductor. I know, Bags, you're big into chips. They came out and said their earnings were fantastic, and a big part of TSM earnings are driven by Apple iPhone and their chips. So people are obviously starting to see something that we haven't seen. Whether it means much more with the macro headwinds, I'm not sure at this point, but I like what I'm seeing so far.
You guys know I like a good real world example. So while in my hiatus, while we were moving across country, the whole family updated iPhones. And boy, was that a process, because the telephone store, I'm not going to give said company a shout out, but the telephone store had people waiting and waiting and waiting to get these magical devices. So yeah, it was quite interesting to me that the consumers so pour off that all of a sudden we're signing up for 2 more years of give me the best phone right now.
Yeah, and that's also been, it's also that natural progression that it's gone from an ancillary device to a necessity, right? Like, as I'm traveling in New Zealand, if I didn't have my iPhone, the communication process, everything, it could be not just iPhone, Android, whatever, smartphone is what I'm trying to say, right? It's evolved from something that was. Hello? Bags?
I can hear you. Or I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here. My internet is unstable, is what I'm being told. We're having a nice little Georgia summer evening storm out there right now. So, so there you
go. We can hear you. And
yeah, I can hear you guys now too. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just in my 40-hour traveling journey to New Zealand here to talk to you guys from the future, is the iPhone is still relevant here in the future.
One thing I was looking at on the queues, and this is a shout out to the homie TKP Trader. He has this, and I think I've shouted this out on the video before, this TRM indicator. And this is the first time since, when was that? March. Yeah, that it fired off something other than a sell. Now that doesn't mean that it's going higher. I mean, it could fail here because as we've talked about many times, that 9 weekly has served as resistance for months. But that gives me some optimism just on what maybe could happen in the next few weeks. So I'm kind of with you, GP. I've stopped guessing on, I've traded so little of the past few months, but yeah, looking at Apple, I mean, it kissed right off that weekly resistance of those moving averages, basically coming into the downtrend line. So in my opinion, we're kind of like at a wait and see spot. Hopefully it goes higher for longs, but we'll see. I haven't
we got the Fed coming up, right? So I can see us gyrating for the next 2 weeks.
And they're already saying 75 basis points, right? Like they're already putting that out there. Like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Earnings too.
Yeah, we started with bank earnings Thursday, right?
So, anyone see Citigroup?
Oh, I did see Citibank, and it. I said a couple of weeks ago that I liked Citibank a lot on stock twits, and I realized it's been beaten up and it's gone nowhere. And I'm not saying that I like it to be a forever long hold, but I expected a pretty good report from them. They were up like 12%, something like that on Friday.
13.23%.
Well,
I'm looking at it.
I was close.
And the volume is the one you got to see. Like that's nearly capitulation type reversal volume. I think when you talk about like the Darvis box, right? Like it ends on, it usually ends its move on super, super high volume, right? So that was something to kind of, not on the weekly, but on a daily, that was some insanity in terms of volume. So definitely, if you're talking about headwinds,
that's the largest volume in years,
dude. In almost 20 years, right? Like, or since 2008, maybe.
Years. 2013.
2013. Okay, close enough.
No, 2012. Sorry, October 15th, 2012. Anyway, we spent too long on Citibank, but I think that's I think that pretends good for some beaten up names.
Yeah, and so that's exactly. I don't know, Nick. You want to chime in some more?
I mean, I'm in your camp. Like like I said, I'm leaning bullish. If you want to switch gears, I think the best looking breakout on my radar was Sell H. But also to your point, Google and Amazon and Apple are pretty much the main two that are on my radar as far as trying to pick a direction with the Qs. It's been a lot of, on the swing side, I have longs on currently, but I'm more or less day trading more than anything at the moment.
And that's your best bet. Wake up in the morning, figure out whatever direction they're gonna do, and then trade it.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, yeah, for sure. I still like the drugs. Obviously, we haven't talked about the IBB or the Labu. I think VRTX and UTHR still look the best in the
monster VRTX.
Yeah.
Monster in the making, I would say. Like, right? It hasn't nearly broken
out yet. No.
But it's got all the tenets of our next set of leaders, right? In terms of where it's going. It's not parabolic, it's based, it's flagged, it's done all the things that it needs to do to set up for higher.
Yeah, VRT. I mean, if I had to put all my eggs in one basket right now, it'd probably be VRTX, I think.
Yeah. Whoa. You said put all your eggs in one basket.
I said if I had to put my eggs in one basket,
that's just a big,
that's where I'd be right now. But I just think, again, kind of why I guess I was, trading the energy sector to the long side. It was just because it was leading, and the drugs they've been on fire.
Yeah.
Halo,
No, I just
another
want to
one.
make sure I got it correct. If you were to go all in right now, if you were to go all, it would be on VRTX.
Yeah, that'd be the one.
Damn. All right, Nick. And to clarify, biotech, right? Like you're not talking the old men pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you're looking at XBI, ultimately that is as bullish as you can be in what is a terrible terrible environment for so many, right? Like that it pulled back into the base on the daily, where it kind of broke down from. It flagged right into the 9 all week. It's been holding, it's been wicking. You're in a supply zone, so I'm not expecting it to go bananas here, but as it works through the supply, XBI looks poised for higher. Yeah, it could fail. Don't get me wrong.
So Nick, you wouldn't go LABU or XBI. You'd just go straight Vertex.
I I have LABU on, LABU on, but I also have VRTX also. I'm not. It's not a get reckless environment for me.
Well, you know me. I like to throw my degens out there. You say all in on something, it perks my ears up. I'm like a coon hound.
Yeah.
Labu has been great, man. From where I entered when it still went, you're still looking at like 70% in a couple of months, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
My average is in the 5s, so I don't plan to sell this anytime soon until the chart tells me. I don't know about you, Nick, but the chart's definitely not telling me to sell this at any point in time right now.
No, I think we got. I think we easily. I mean, well, you're in from the 5s. You easily got another. I don't know. I'm thinking like 17 to 20-ish, easy.
19 is the target I had, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That's the part, like, which kind of lines up with where the XBI starts to see if it's real or if it's just a mean reversion, because it got beaten up, right? So this is your initial mean reversion trade. The question is, will the mean reversion lead to
more
higher moves?
Yeah.
And that's
right.
what you got to figure out.
So,
right?
So we got a question on Netflix. Before that, I want to circle back to the semis.
Netflix.
I'm going to pull up NVIDIA real quick just to look at.
Well, you know who's in the video, right?
Yeah, Nancy bought some, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but let's clarify some of that. There's been a lot of stuff like Nancy has bought these options back in 2020, right? So they're just exercising the ones that were already there. This is not a new position. This is like we went through this exact same cycle, and it's like people don't have any.
Get on my vibe right now.
I'm not. I just like everyone loves talking. Not you guys. I just
All right, we'll go to Netflix. We'll go to Netflix. Fine.
I just mean it wasn't like some conspiracy theory. He's had these options for a couple of years now, right? Like it just happens to line up with the timing. And yeah, he probably knows that they're going to pass the chip bill, so he exercises the option to make sure
hell yeah, they're going to pass it.
But you have to remember, he's also potentially in from higher, so he might have lost initial money on exercising those options, right? Because he buys deep in the money ultimately.
Yeah.
And it's down $200, right? So
yeah.
All right. Normally it's Nick's the joy kill, but tonight it's GP. So, or I should say this morning, GP woke up on the wrong side of the bed to be the joy kill.
I will only speak the truth from the future. So that's all you get.
From the
Netflix. I mean, Netflix looks pretty good finally. I think last time we were on, we talked about Netflix. And I was like, as long as it's bumping down here, I don't have any interest, but it's retaking some key moving averages. But for me, it's still got to break out of this range. So I'm okay. I'm okay with losing out on some percent gain if I think it's going to hold long term. So I think you got to play it how you play it. That's just me. GP obviously is in for much lower and loves him some Netflix. So Gotham, the floor is yours, sir.
So we started this whole journey on the Netflix earnings call,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Way back in January.
Back in January. So we're
Full
I think
fucking
we're at
circle.
yeah, we're now two earnings in. We've had two massive gap downs. We're seeing positive divergence on multiple levels as we continue to get punched in the face on this stock, and it's been frustrating. But the reality is, if you're looking because of the earnings bar back in April, everything after that looks like the volume is anemic and meager. But it's been trading in the 8 to 12 million share range the entire time since April, which for Netflix is almost triple the volume what it used to trade, which was 3 to 5, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, that means people are coming in and rebuying the stock, right? They're accumulating here. So if you see it even before on the prior gap, it was something quite similar. So my conversation here is Netflix goes higher, the market goes higher, right? This has been the leader in it told us in January what the market was going to do, and it did it. And now based on earnings, it's going to determine, I think, where the direction of the rest of the market goes for the rest of the year, or at least the next few months, right? You also have midterm elections and all that other stuff, but ultimately, I think Netflix is going much higher from here. It looks very similar to the same exact setup that would have given you the opportunity to short this for what, $400?
Yep.
What was it, 575? What back in January?
That's insane.
670, 675.
Yeah. So like I think it was like
that was December. Yeah, so like 620, we'll call it.
We had that call on the 15th, 14th or something like that. So it was right around 530, right? So you essentially would have been able to take that short for nearly $400.
A bajillion percent.
Yeah, and if you bought some long dated puts, you're sitting quite in the money. And I like what it's been doing. It's been frustrating everyone. And the choice in Microsoft as an ad partner a few days before earnings is kind of an odd one. But I think it's just telling you that Reed is going to pivot, and he's been a master of making sure his business survives for the next cycle.
So forget the chart. To me, that's the most interesting thing. Announcing Microsoft as your ad partner to help you figure out ads. I mean, who better to work with? So I think that's a win. You guys know I've talked a lot of shit about Netflix, Roku, all these other streaming companies and streaming device companies for a couple months, but I really like that from a business decision is to get involved with Microsoft. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know that I would jump in full force ahead of earnings. I always had the 60-30-10 rule on earnings. 60% chance it's down, 30% chance it's flat, 10% chance of an upside surprise. So that's how I would play it if I were looking to play it. But I think from a business end decision, it might take a few quarters to play out, but I really like the relationship with Microsoft a lot.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the weekly chart, like if we're going back to charts here, it actually broke the downtrend from November this last week, right? With a weekly hammer on volume. It's the potential here is that it fills that gap, which is around 350, which I don't think anyone is actually expecting to happen.
Mr. Pocket says, GP, someone said they have a board member from Microsoft as well as gaming Xbox Synergy and potentially host on Azure. I mean, I'm going to answer this for GP. I think all that sounds interesting. I mean, we know there's a lot of crossover. Netflix is getting in the game, has gotten into gaming. Azure outside of Amazon Web Services, it's the biggest cloud provider. So there's a lot of synergies there that could be positive catalysts for Netflix.
Yeah, and he's had some missteps along the way, Reed, right? But this wasn't, to me, this wasn't a misstep in his business model, so to speak. In the prior past, when they had, this is 2011, they had the same thing. They had the business misstep, and the subscriber growth was coming down at that point, right? And we all know what's happened since that 2011 subscriber growth conversation. They've just knocked it out of the park. So as I said back in January, it's hard to bet against Reed Hastings for the long term.
I mean, you're only up 290% from there.
Yeah. So it for me, it's hard. It's a founder-led company 20 years later. That's hard to find. Right? Even Amazon's done, right? 20 something years later, Bezos said, that's enough. I've done what I've done, and that's all you get from me. And Reed's still there trying to figure this out. And I know that's going to shift at some point because he does have a co-CEO, but my man's still there and he still cares about the company, and he's done right by his shareholders for the long term. So I think his pivots will eventually work. So the question is, how long do you want to be in the model? But they've shifted from a growth stock to a value stock, to be honest.
Yep.
So, and until they start showing that they're a growth stock again, it's going to behave like value stocks. It's going to go sideways for a long time and then have its random blips up and stuff like that. But yeah, I like the chart here. I like that it's finally broken I'll post the chart later, but it's finally broken the kind of the steep downtrend from November going into earnings, which I think bodes well, and no one believes it can do anything. So
Friday was definitely a solid entry for any type of swing traders, just being kind of a pocket pivot type move.
Yep.
You got the above average volume, and it diced all the kind of major moving averages, the 50, the 20, the 10.
Yeah. Are you talking about Netflix or in general?
I was talking about Netflix in particular.
Yeah. The moving averages were so beaten up that it was hard not to, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the clear one is that 200-day moving average, right? That's the one. Yeah. Once we clear that, it's a whole different game. I mean, that's a long way away.
Still a sweet trade for swing traders here. If that 200 day is kind of in line with that gap fill. Yep. I guess I'm looking at the 40 week, not the 200 day, but yeah, I bet you that gap gets filled. Then, thinking about Max Payne in terms of direction, because I've been thinking about earnings a lot. We have I think not this next week, the week after, we have Amazon, Apple, Tesla all reporting on the same, and Google and stuff all reporting the same week, right?
Yep.
There was a big part of me that thought that it would be the catalyst for this next leg down. That's really what we were waiting for. I would not be surprised for an upside surprise coming out of this, but I don't know. What do I know?
I don't know. I am just to me it's how much lower can things go? I think they can go lower for sure. But at some point it starts becoming kind of cheap. So it depends on where you want to be, right? XBI was one of those, oh my God, it's not going to go anywhere. And then 2 straight months of just crushing all your opinions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Oh my God, no, short it. Oh, wait, I'm shorting in the hole after it's down 90% on, if you're looking at fundamentals, there was stocks that were trading under book value, right?
Yeah.
Across the board.
Nick, I think you've done a great job over the past 6 months of, saying what's going on. You've definitely been more conservative and week to week than we have. But I'm never going to let you live it down. Get you some gush. How's that guy doing? How's that guy doing nowadays?
Wait, so like
Okay,
let's
let's talk about
let's
energy.
talk
I'm
about
curious.
parabolic charts for a bit. Like let's talk about.
I had to build you up to tear you down.
Hey, all good.
So let's shall we? I'd love to talk about parabolic charts, right? Like
Yeah.
Sure.
So I've been posting a lot of them this year in terms of like, and you know, when I was posting XLE, everyone's like, "Oh, you're wrong," right? Like it's the strongest in the bunch, and
It was.
like, yeah, well, that's my whole point, right? Like, so this what I've seen so far this year is like they find a trend and then they push the trend until they can't go anymore, right? Like they continue to push and push and push, and it's on waning momentum, it's waning volume. The divergences obviously are forming on the indicators, but those aren't as reliable. But you can see the action, right? It's just not as powerful as it was when it first started, and that makes sense. You know, XLE was up what 500% since the 2020 bottoms or something like that. It's going to have some pullback. It's an ETF. It's not a stock, right? It's an ETF. So it's nice to see some of that come in. But right now, where's the parabola? Everyone knows where the parabola is. It's in the dollar, right?
Yeah.
And they continue to push the dollar like it's going out of style, right? Like it's to me it's nuts, and I'm just waiting for
All in short the dollar.
I'm waiting for it to break because it has been strong. So I'm not trying to front run something that's hitting 20-year kind of like levels, right? I'm waiting till it actually breaks down below that. But this is on its last legs in terms of where it's going, in my opinion, for the short term. Whether it can come in and hold like a key support and move higher off that level, that's to be seen. But right now, I think if you're going long here, you have to be pretty quick on your stop. I don't know, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if anything, it looks like it's going to pull back into that 103.
Yeah.
102, 103 area. If it holds there, yeah, sure, it could continue higher. Let's just see something real quick. Yeah, so it pretty much on Friday, it drilled. I love, like, I don't know. I took this from, like, I don't know if you guys remember Trader Florida from way back in the day, but his big,
No, sir.
he was a dude on StockTwits. He ended up starting his own service, I think, because he just got sick of the, I don't know, people on the internet, I think. But his main like pattern is kind of like those A, B, C, D type patterns. And when these measured moves hit, like no matter what the pattern really is, whether it's like an ascending triangle or descending wedge or whatever it is, when the measured moves hit, typically price pauses or reverses from those kind of measured move points. And like the UU or the DXY pretty much drilled it on Friday. Or is this continuous?
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way, that 108 108.80 was basically the completion of like the CD leg higher. So I would be leaning. I'd be with you. I think we're going to see a pause here.
Yeah.
What does the dollar do if it does come down?
Say that again.
The question is, what does the dollar do for stocks if it comes down?
It cools that inflation, baby.
Yeah.
It's a tailwind, right? So
for sure.
Dollar continuing to push into the Fed Reserve, into earnings, and breaking on this kind of area, this zone kind of makes sense to me, right? Like you're also seeing the world's economies also hike. So the strength of the dollar might not be waning, so to speak, but the strength of other currencies might be picking up strength, right? That's that's my perspective. I'm not saying the dollar is going to die from its strength, but I think others are going to go stronger.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the Dixie chart and I don't know how long. And yeah, I definitely see those would be the levels I'd be watching for. Loses
Yeah.
105, I'd look for 101, loses 101, then Katie bar the door.
So I use the USD JPY to kind of really watch what's going on in the market. So like the current from a currency perspective, you're essentially hitting like 1980, 1990 levels, massive supply zones in here. So we can push a little bit higher, but I think ultimately we're hitting the tail end of the move. Right?
Holy cow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been straight up, right? That like currency doesn't do what it doesn't normally do this. So
Yeah.
the question is whether it's going to come down like a normal parabola, or is it going to base like it did in 2012 and then push higher from there?
It's like my Kanye moment. How sway? How sway? How GP? How GP?
You know, looking at the monthly of the DXY, you know, it sure looks like it's got room up to like that 119, 120. But that would just create like a pretty decent double top there.
Yeah. And that won't be good though, because that would destroy the market.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't like that, but I can see that, and that's what it is, right? Like you're seeing somewhat of a bottoming process in like in the Qs, but if you look at the NASDAQ composite, I think that's where you need to be paying attention, because that's a bigger set of companies, right? That make up our economies here. And on a weekly basis, that weekly 200 SMA has been pretty solid here. Could be bear flagging, could be all kinds of stuff, but
sometimes
it's something
like
to be watching.
Share a brain. Yeah, it's a nice little squeeze action going there.
Yeah, you had the weekly MACD curl too here, right? And it's about to cross bullish potentially. If
you're lucky I've got volume on these charts. Don't make me start putting MACD on GP.
So, and I like this. We talked about this a few weeks ago, that gap down, piss everyone off, like the end of the world scenario happened on the last CPI, and it literally crushed sentiment. It shifted so hard that week, that what was that 10.5% move in 3 days, that everyone was like, this is we're done, right? And then since that move, we've been essentially we've been sideways for 4 weeks and kind of sitting at that gap and looking for any reason to move higher. The question is, will we move higher, right?
I was just, looking at the SPYs and the Qs. I guess maybe this might be more of a question. So, okay, if we were to gap above 295, right, on the Qs,
yep,
would that create an island bottom?
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. Okay. I was thinking that too. And I was thinking the SPYs, like if we could push into like 390 and pause there and then kind of gap above that, 397-ish, I think that would be probably the most bullish looking.
Yeah.
And then we have to take out that 318 level personally for me. That's the one where we really kind of broke down after holding it for 3 or 4 months early in the year. So there's a lot of work to do, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking at the gap down from June 10th, we made a new low off that gap down, and then we tried to push higher into the gap. We failed, but it made a higher high. We came back down, made a higher low, came back up to push, I think, an incremental higher high. And then we came back and held the Biden election, that 280.21 level. How many times? I think I talk about it quite often on StockTwits as the 11,843 level.
Yeah.
But that's that level that we continue to gravitate back towards, right? And so if we create a gap island situation from here and we follow through, right? It's all about follow through in this market because we haven't had much.
Yeah, can we get some follow through?
Right. But so if you're looking at this week's candle, Nick, look at the candle right before the end of the year. It's a very, very kind of similar basing pattern to me. And that was basing at the top, and we have this kind of basing at the bottom here. So,
oh, sure.
Right, we had this kind of side week action. So, like, I'd really like to see this push up from here back into maybe the 20-day on the weekly.
Yeah,
because that would be really nice.
I agree, but we're going to have sellers all the way up because all these people are going to be like, I want out. The market is going to zero. Please save me. So all that people are just going to be sell. So I think a sideways chop higher is probably more likely than just a gap higher, but I would love to see it. I'm not, you know me, I love good gap up more than anybody.
Yeah. To me, there's all these signs, right? That we potentially could be pushing up. Because it's been relentless, to be honest. Like if we're like looking back at other historical data and charts, we've always had at least some type of kind of decent mean reversion, and outside of March, we didn't have anything. We get like a week, right? And then we die. We get like a day and then we die. So the rallies, the bear market rallies, whatever you want to call it, this is not bear market rally to me. Like moving up and having an inside week is not a bear market rally. Bear market rally to me is where shorts start to say uncle, right? And then once they finally say uncle, it reverses to the downside. That's what a bear market rally to me.
You're going to have a whole lot of butt hurt bears mad at you over that. It is a bear market rally. How can you say that, GP?
Yeah, well, that's, I don't care. Here in New Zealand reminds me that I give not much credence to what other people think.
IDGAF.
Yeah.
And look, man, like one of the most beaten up stocks, and I'm a bag holder in this, is Beyond. I know, Nick, you don't like Beyond, but take a look at what Beyond's done in the last 5 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Carving out a nice bottom there.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. And it's breaking higher, right? Like it tried to break lower. So for a moving average that's been resistance for a better part of 12 to 14 months.
Forever.
And it's starting to break higher while, it's always good to see the beaten up names start to act better, right? I think Beyond's one of them. Roblox is another one that's been acting fairly well.
On a personal note, are you so big in Beyond because you're vegetarian?
No, I personally just like what they're doing. And I really like what they're doing. Their marketing team sucks, to be honest, and that's what.
Fair enough.
The stock has been dying for 3 months, and they're posting on Twitter, 12 months, and they're posting on Twitter on what's your fucking favorite recipe, and you're like, dude, seriously, you're like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you go
announce some deals or some shit?
I am frustrated with their process, but I do like the fact that they are non-GMO. They're constantly evolving. They're on. Most people probably don't know this, but their burgers are constantly changing. I think they're on version 3 or 4, so they're always trying to improve themselves. So as a business model, I like it. It's a speculative play for me. And it's definitely in like butthurt central as well. So I'm not arguing that it's been a good play, but I like the company overall, and I like.
I mean, I don't hate the burgers. I've had them numerous times, and I do not hate them. I can tell, right? Like I can tell if it's a Beyond Burger or a regular burger, but I'm not going to say, no, I don't want that. Like,
I don't eat a lot of processed food, so Beyond doesn't fall into my category, but I also didn't, I didn't own a Tesla, but I still bought the stock, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
just, it's just what I see is potential setup for future, and there's going to be a lot of bumpy roads along the way, and I'm sitting in that. So
yeah, I love those processed foods. So Nick can get on to about how bad my diet is.
Dude, yo, like I love there's not a guy out there that loves fast food more than me. I'll tell you right now. I do everything I can to avoid the processed food. I try to eat as clean as I can, but like, oh, fast food. Like, dude, I would rather go to McDonald's and get my snack Mac over like a Dairy Queen Blizzard any day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather.
I think this is Vol. Vol has joined the party. Hey, Vince, if you're Vol, just confirm. I think it is. But he says he likes Google. GOOGL. Google is a key stock to watch for me. Bullish TriStar setup on daily and share split. Yeah. I mean, it's doing a lot of what tech is right now. I don't know all the chart patterns, so I'm guessing TriStar is like that reversal down there. Maybe anybody?
I don't know what the.
I think that 2600 gap is going to act as a magnet if we do break to the upside.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Nick. It's going to line right up with the 200 daily. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's fall. I agree. I agree with that.
We talked about Google back when they announced a split. Right, we're like, just avoid this stock until the split's done. So, I hate when companies announce 5-6 months out into the future. It's just too much goddamn crap that goes along with it.
GD. Sound like me.
Yeah, it's too much, right? You're giving too much time for them to bleed the options premiums from you. So I don't like that. And now we have to see what happens from here. It's still under the 21 day on the from a moving average perspective. It's starting to curl up a little bit, but we've been sideways since April.
That's not it. I've got a good Google chart somewhere. I was just looking at it. I won't bore you guys with trying to find it. Yes, I will. We have time to kill. We can talk about some Bitcoin in a bit too. I think Bitcoin. We haven't talked to the old butt coin in a minute. Anyway,
it reminds me of the little engine that could but couldn't.
Hasn't yet. How about that, GP? Take that. Put that in your pocket. Okay.
I have no opinion on. I think crypto in general is going to be where our next bull cycle and kind of comes from, but I have no opinion on what's going to be the coin that behaves like Amazon. Maybe it is Bitcoin. Yeah. Maybe it's Dogecoin. I have no clue. Right?
It's not Doge. No, it's not Dogecoin.
No, I know. It's
all in on Doge. All in.
Elon is supporting it, and he might be late, but he always comes to the party.
Well, I will reserve my comments because Elon's watching. He's a big fan of the show, and I don't want to set him off. He's already got enough going on in his life right now.
I heard he's fathering another child.
Or it already has.
Or is he co-parenting with his dad? Something? I don't know.
Whoa. Let's not get into the family mess here. Like, we're just keeping straight charts and talking.
Shall we talk about Tesla actually, since it is one of the?
Yeah, no. I want to touch on Bitcoin real quick though. I posted this earlier today. If I can find my chart, there we are. And I really like how this bad boy is setting up. So, here's the monthly chart. This is the all-time channel. I've had this drawn in for ages. Why is that not lined up? Anyway, I don't know why my charts move around sometimes. But this is the 2017 highs, and we've held it. We've undercut it, but we've held it so far. This is the all-time channel. We've held it so far. I think we could absolutely get a relief rally into this downtrend right here that we've rejected back in March. So, the end of the wedge would be like November, and what other time to be bullish really is at the end of the year. Anyway, so there you go. There's my Bitcoin chart. It's pretty.
And Bitcoin came back to that level. Bitcoin came back to the level that we talked about earlier this year, right? Which is like, if it comes back to this level and holds, it's probably we're gonna probably talk about another leg higher, right? And we came to this level, and what is that, 5 straight weeks that we've been holding? I don't like that it's in the lower part of the wick, personally.
But there's things not to like, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's things not. I'm not saying it's all clear. Go in on Vertex. I'm not telling you that.
Yeah. Oh, Nick, he's throwing shade.
I'm not telling you that, but again, as we talk about forming a base, right? These are the types of things that you ultimately have to see before you get there. So holding former support resistance, right? Again, I'm not saying mortgage the house and throw it out there on Bitcoin. I'm not doing that, but it has the potential setup. Anyway, Homebody in their YouTube chat asked if certain former growth stocks turn into value stocks, which they have, and therefore have more usually stable pricing. Where is the value if they don't pay a divvy? That's an interesting question.
That's a complicated question.
Well, I think, and I can take my best shot at this. I think them going into value ETFs is a way for those ETFs to get growth in them. I don't think that necessarily they are dyed in the wool value stocks. I think where they're trading at right now is at a value price. And only time will tell. It's probably going to take a few quarters. But yeah, I think that, it's not something that I would say that they have to have a divvy, because they're going to appreciate in percentage most likely. But no, it's a valid question. I think Homebody, if they're not paying a divvy, why are they in these why are they in these value ETFs, and why are they considered value? Very good question. I don't have a great answer, but that's what I'm going to go with.
I think it goes based on when you're looking at the perspectives, is the DCF, right? The discounted cash flow, and also your free cash flow when you're talking about value, right? So the value is not just in dividend, it's having incremental growth in a solid business model, right? So it's not a company that's decelerating revenues. It's meager, right? It's doing its minimal growth, but it went from a growth stock to a free cash flow stock at the beginning of, I think, 2021, right? And so the value and futures gapped up, we're up 46, 48 or whatever on the NQs. But I think the value, it depends on the eye of the beholder. But to me, it's a company that's shown, like for Netflix, for example, it's a company that's shown that they can grow over time, and they're trading at a pretty discounted value to that growth. And can they reclaim that, is the $1 million question, right? Like, maybe it's not through sub growth, but they pivot to the ad business, and now you have an ad model where they start growing and increasing the revenues exponentially again. So it's just something to watch. But dividend is not the only answer for value stocks, right?
For sure. Futures are open.
Yep.
We're a little green across the board for now. We'll see how that goes. But Yeah, there you
I
go.
think Netflix sets the tone this week, man. That earnings will determine a lot, and it's early. It's Tuesday, I believe, right? After hours.
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday after hours. That is correct, sir.
And it's going to set the tone for where the markets go over the next few months.
Yeah.
Homebody followed up. I mean, you could do a de facto divs if you sold calls or puts or something, but for average investor. Yeah, I mean, you know, we've talked about selling calls before, and it's a great income strategy if you're okay with being potentially called away on your underlying. But yeah, you could do that.
There's a few ETFs that do it for you if you're not comfortable with it as well. Let me get the names while you're talking, but they do the
nobody's
long call
talking.
strat. It's a QYLD is one of them, and JEPI. They do the long call selling strategy, part of their ETF, and they pay out through a distribution/dividend. So
what's the other one? QYLD and what?
QYLD and JEPI.
JEPI.
And JEPI right now, I think, is like a 10% dividend.
I learned something new today. I don't know if it can get much better than that. I think we got to wrap the call on that. Nicholas.
Yeah, you're cutting out there.
Thank you both. GP, thanks for calling from the future. Certainly appreciate you jumping in the DeLorean. Is my internet sucky or is it GP's? Anyway, we'll try to get technical difficulties worked out in the future. Guys, as always, thank you. I appreciate you so much. And that's it. Take care.